Chapter 30, Reckoning and Revelations. The salt water stung, a sharp, almost brutal reminder of the rawness of it all, mirroring the slight lingering sting where his stubble had grazed my now sensitive skin. He held my hand, his grip possessive, claiming, yet somehow also fragile, tentative. As if he was afraid I might shatter. We were both shivering violently now in the cool night air. I tried to put on my ruined dress, now a sodden, clinging sandy mess, a far cry from the elegant garment it had been. The inevitable stares, the whispers, the judgment, the consequences we'd surely face back at the hotel, back in the real world. It all felt incredibly, crushingly overwhelming. I squeezed my eyes shut for a moment, trying to block it all out, trying to recapture, even for a fleeting second, the blissful oblivion I'd felt just moments before. But it was no use. Reality was a relentless, unforgiving tide. Once the dress was on, I looked for Polo's reaction to my appearance, desperately needing, to see his face, to gauge his reaction, to find some anchor, some reassurance, some sanity in this swirling, chaotic sea of emotions and physical sensations. His eyes, usually so alight with mischief and confident, almost arrogant charm, were shadowed, uncertain, filled with a vulnerability that mirrored my own, and yet somehow, that vulnerability, that crack in his carefully constructed facade, pierced me to the core, more potent than any practiced smile. He looked younger, stripped bare, vulnerable. And incredibly beautiful, even with his hair plastered to his forehead, his tuxedo ruined, his usual composure shattered. The carefully constructed facade of Polo Reyes, the charming fraternity brother, the confident heir, the notorious player, had completely dissolved, washed away by the sea in our shared passion, leaving behind the boy, the man he truly was. Or at least, the man I hoped, with a desperate, aching intensity, he was. Polo, I began, my voice a shaky, breathless whisper, barely audible above the relentless roar of the waves and the pounding of my own heart. I didn't know what I wanted to say. The questions, a million of them, tumbled over each other, inspoken, yet hanging heavy, suffocating in the air between us, a thick, impenetrable fog of uncertainty rolling in from the sea. Daphne, he echoed, my name a raw, ragged whisper, a far cry from the smooth, confident tones he usually employed. He didn't offer answers, not yet, only my name, spoken like a question, a plea, an anchor in itself, a fragile, desperate lifeline in the storm. The silence stretched, elongated, thick and heavy with unspoken words, with fear and desire and uncertainty, filled only by the relentless rhythm of the ocean, the sound of our ragged breathing, the distant muffled music and laughter from the party, a lifetime away, a different planet, a different reality entirely. He cleared his throat, the sound pathetically awkward, a strangled rasp in the vastness of the night, the sound of a man struggling to find his voice, to find the right words. My teeth started to chatter uncontrollably, whether from the cold or from the sheer terror of what awaited us, I couldn't tell. You're freezing, he said, his voice filled with concern, his eyes scanning me, taking in my shivering form, my soaked dress, my bare arms and legs. The concern was genuine, a small spark of warmth in the growing chill. He led me by the hand, back towards the shore, towards the spot where we'd carelessly discarded our shoes and his tuxedo jacket moments, lifetimes ago. He retrieved the jacket, shaking it out with a sharp, frustrated movement, trying in vain to remove some of the sand and water, a futile gesture. With swift and purposeful movements, he wrapped the jacket around my shoulders. It was soaked, of course, heavy with seawater and sand, but the thick fabric offered a small, desperately needed measure of warmth, and more importantly, a sense of coverage, of protection, of modesty. I huddled into it, grateful for the gesture, for the small act of kindness, of caring. I don't think I can go back in there like this, I said, my voice small and shaky, gesturing towards my clinging dress, the ruined fabric a testament to our wild abandon. The thought of facing the crowd, the whispers, the stares, the knowing smirks, the judgment, was mortifying, unbearable. I felt exposed, vulnerable, ashamed. Polo frowned, his brow furrowed in thought, his mind clearly racing, trying to find a solution, a way out of this mess. You're right. You can't, he said, his voice firm, decisive. He paused, his eyes scanning the beach, the hotel, searching for an answer. Okay. Here's the plan. I have a suite here for the weekend. It's on the 10th floor. I'll walk you to the service elevator. No one we know will be using it. You can take a hot shower, get warm and I'll go find you something to wear. Something dry. He reached into the inner pocket of the jacket and pulled out a plastic key card, a small, rectangular piece of plastic that represented a temporary escape, a refuge. He pressed it into my hand, his fingers lingering over mine for a moment, a silent communication. Room 1012. Go. Get warm. I'll be back as soon as I can. I promise. The plan was reckless, bordering on insane, a further complication of an already impossibly complicated situation. But I was too cold, too shaken, too emotionally drained, too overwhelmed by the sheer force of everything to argue, to protest, to think of a better alternative. I nodded, clutching the keycard like a lifeline, a tangible symbol of hope in the swirling chaos. Be careful, I said, my voice barely a whisper, the words catching in my throat. I wasn't sure what I was warning him about. Zeph, his father, the general disapproval and potential wrath of the fraternity elite, the consequences of his own actions, all of it, probably. And something more, something I couldn't quite articulate, a premonition, a sense of foreboding. He gave me a small, strained, almost heartbreaking smile, a flicker of the old Polo, the confident, charming Polo, trying to break through. I will. You too. Lock the door. He led me back towards the hotel, not through the main entrance with its bright lights and crowds of people, but towards a discreet side door, almost hidden in the shadows, that led to a service corridor, a back route, a secret passage. The walk felt endless, agonizingly slow, my bare feet cold and stinging on the damp sand, then the slightly gritty pavement, each step a reminder of my vulnerability, of my exposure. I kept the jacket pulled tightly around me, clutching it like a shield, trying to ward off the chill, both physical and emotional, and to hide myself from any prying eyes, from any potential witnesses. We reached the service elevator, a small, utilitarian, claustrophobic box, a stark, almost jarring contrast to the opulent surroundings of the main hotel, a hidden world behind the glamorous facade. Polo pressed the button for the 10th floor, his jaw tight, his expression grim. I'll be back as soon as I can, he repeated, his eyes searching mine, looking for reassurance, forgiveness, understanding. I wasn't sure. Lock the door behind you. Don't open it for anyone but me. The elevator arrived, the doors sliding open with a mechanical groan, a jarring metallic sound. I stepped inside, reluctantly, turning to face him, feeling a pang of separation, a sudden, irrational fear that I might never see him again. Polo, I said, my voice still shaky, my throat tight with unshed tears. I wanted to say something more, something meaningful, something profound, to express the maelstrom of emotions swirling inside me, but the words wouldn't come. I was speechless, overwhelmed. He leaned in and kissed me, a quick, hard, almost desperate kiss, a reassurance, a promise, a lifeline. Then he stepped back, his hand lingering on the closing door for a moment, his eyes locked on mine. And then the doors slid shut, separating us, leaving me alone in the stark metallic box, ascending slowly, inexorably, towards the unknown, towards a temporary refuge, towards an uncertain future. The elevator ride was agonizingly slow, each floor marked by a soft ding and a brief illumination of a number, a countdown, or perhaps a count up to what? I watched the numbers light up one by one, my heart pounding in my chest, a frantic rhythm against the silence. 1, 2, 3, 10. Finally, the doors opened with a whoosh, and I stepped out into a quiet, carpeted hallway, dimly lit, deserted. Room 1012 was at the end, on the left. I hurried towards it, my bare feet silent on the plush carpet, the key card clutched tightly in my hand, feeling like a fugitive, a trespasser, an imposter. I reached the door, fumbling with the key card, my hands shaking so badly I could barely insert it into the slot. The lock clicked open, a small, almost insignificant sound that represented safety, sanctuary. I slipped inside, quickly closing and locking the door behind me, leaning against it, my eyes closed, taking a deep, shuddering breath, trying to calm my racing heart, to regain some semblance of control. I was in. Safe for now. Alone. I was in Polo Reyes's hotel suite. I leaned against the door, my eyes closed, taking a deep breath. I didn't turn on the lights, leaving the room illuminated only by the soft glow of the city lights filtering through the windows, creating a sense of hushed seclusion. It was a large suite, far more luxurious than I'd expected. A sitting area with a plush sofa and armchairs, a large screen TV, a king-size bed draped in crisp white linens. A bathroom I saw through an open doorway with a massive soaking tub and a separate shower stall. I shrugged off Polo's jacket, carefully hanging it up in the closet. I was shivering uncontrollably now, my teeth chattering. I needed a hot shower, desperately. I made my way into the bathroom, turning on the taps, letting the water run until it was steaming hot. I stripped off my ruined dress, the soaked fabric peeling away from my skin, and stepped into the shower, letting the hot water cascade over me, washing away the salt, the sand, the lingering traces of the ocean, and hopefully some of the shock and confusion. As the water beat down on me, I closed my eyes, letting the heat seep into my bones, trying to calm my racing thoughts. What had I done? What had we done? Where did we go from here? The questions swirled in my mind, unanswered, unanswerable. I stayed in the shower for a long time, letting the water wash over me, letting the steam fill the room, creating a temporary escape from the reality that awaited me outside. But eventually, the water began to cool, and I knew I couldn't hide in here forever. I turned off the taps, stepping out of the shower, wrapping myself in a large, fluffy towel that was hanging on a heated rack. I felt a little better, warmer, cleaner, but the underlying anxiety remained, a knot in my stomach, a persistent thrum of unease. I looked at myself in the large, fogged-up mirror, wiping away the condensation with my hand. My reflection stared back at me, a stranger in a strange land. My hair was a tangled mess, my eyes were wide and shadowed, my lips were slightly swollen. I looked different. Changed. I needed clothes. And I needed answers. And I needed Polo. I wrapped the towel tighter around me and stepped back into the main room. I went to the window, my gaze fixed on the city lights below. And as I stood there, alone in the darkness, I finally realized the truth. I was in love with him. The realization hit me with the force of a physical blow, stealing my breath, making my knees weak. It was a truth I'd been trying to deny, to suppress, to ignore, but it was undeniable now. I loved Polo Reyes. Not the fraternity president, not the golden boy, but the flawed, vulnerable, passionate man I'd glimpsed beneath the surface. And that realization changed everything.